from the real thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
It must be weird.
Yeah.
Another sweet boy face. This is my dear Dylan O'Brien. I haven't seen him in years. I feel like this might have been the last time I saw him. But I do talk to him quite regularly, and I love him dearly.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There is a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. Super weird. So we didn't do that this time. I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once, was terrified of it, never revisited Snow White again.
I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Right. Every time that a celebrity gets like one DM that says KYS, they're like, I'm getting death threats! Someone save me, but not a prince!
She's not going to be safe with a prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Don't.
Anybody but a prince!
Don't you dare save me.
Of course. What would you do when you have this narcissistic nightmare trying to ruin a film that you've put hundreds of millions of dollars into?
Seriously, it's funny. And by the way, so is making fun of Snow White. It's funny.
Because you just can't close your mouth. You just can't be sane, even when you do open your mouth. I think this girl does not deserve a feature-length film.
And Disney's going to lose money on this movie, and I believe it only made less than $1 million.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, I don't need your business. Thanks.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
She just sounds bitter and angry.
Rachel Zegler, she's an asshole. They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live-action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
If Disney wants to make more woke films that tank at the box office, they are more than welcome to do that, but maybe think of an original idea.
This truly is the worst casting, maybe, in the history of the film industry.
I don't think they're going to buy it. I don't think they're going to watch it. I don't think they're going to like it.
The star, Rachel Zegler, is unbelievably charmless in public.
Rachel is literally the star of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. Like, she acts like her life is so bad.
Every time she speaks, she gets less likable.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Nobody expected Dylan O'Brien to be the one throwing shade, but here we are. Out of nowhere, this man casually dropped one of the most awkward, backhanded reactions to Rachel Zegler's live-action Snow White mess, and fans are eating it up. When asked about the whole fiasco, Dylan didn't launch into some PR-friendly spiel or fake support. Instead, all he said was,
"Yeah, it's weird."
That's it. That was the whole comment. And yet it said everything. Because, let's be honest, this Snow White remake has gone from a fairy tale revival to a full-blown pop culture meltdown. And Dylan's reaction? It might have been short, but it was basically the voice of the internet. The silence? Loud. The shade? Subtle but surgical. And Rachel? She's probably somewhere wishing that people would finally stop talking about this movie. But with Disney spiraling, fans furious, and now Dylan O'Brien side-eyeing the whole production, it's safe to say this story isn't going away anytime soon. But here's where it gets messy. Some fans think Dylan wasn't just being awkward, they think it was shade. Like he was low-key calling out how off-putting Rachel's interviews were without saying too much. The girl went viral for mocking the original story, talking about how she hated the prince, and basically acting like she was doing Disney a favor. So when Dylan said that was weird, people ran with it, saying he said what everyone in Hollywood is probably thinking but too scared to admit. Let's back up and talk about why this Snow White reboot became such a mess in the first place. Disney announced the project years ago as part of their live-action remake spree, but things started going left the second Rachel Zegler was cast. On paper, it made sense. She had just done West Side Story. She could sing, she had the look. But from day one, the rollout felt off. Instead of embracing the original film, Rachel did a complete 180 in interviews. She called the 1,937 classic weird and not progressive, said the prince was basically a stalker, and joked that her version of Snow White would be a girl boss who doesn't dream of true love. The tone was so sarcastic and dismissive, it clashed hard with what people loved about the original. And worse, it gave the impression that Disney was ashamed of its own legacy. Fans weren't asking for a feminist reboot, they just wanted the charm and magic of the original, maybe with some modern updates. But what they got instead was a cynical rebrand, with Rachel at the center of the backlash. It wasn't just about casting, it was about the attitude, and that's what really triggered the internet spiral. The real turning point came when the behind-the-scenes changes to Snow White were leaked, and let's just say, it wasn't giving magic. Fans found out that not only was Disney scrapping the original songs and romantic storyline, but they were also replacing the iconic 7 dwarfs with a group of mystical creatures of various backgrounds, none of whom were actually dwarfs. Peter Dinklage, who famously played Tyrion in Game of Thrones, even called Disney out, saying they were being hypocritical. And once that criticism hit the press, things snowballed. People started accusing Disney of overcorrecting in a way that completely disrespected the source material. Then came the production delays, reshoots, release date pushed back. The energy around the film just kept getting worse, and Rachel, instead of calming things down, she kept making things more awkward. She doubled down on the "not gonna be saved by a prince" messaging, even implying she hadn't watched the original movie more than once. It started to feel like the people making this film didn't even like Snow White, and that's when the internet turned fully against it. Even fans who supported her casting in the beginning started backing away. The whole situation became a case study in how not to promote a nostalgic remake. When the lead actress comes off like she's embarrassed by the role, and the studio keeps changing the story until it's unrecognizable, what exactly are people supposed to be excited about? The backlash wasn't just about Rachel. It was about Disney, the tone, the messaging, and this sense that everything charming about the original was being erased for the sake of modernization. People weren't just disappointed, they felt tricked. Another reason this Snow White situation exploded is because Rachel Zegler's public persona didn't line up with what people expected from a Disney princess, especially one tied to a legacy as nostalgic as Snow White. Let's be honest, she didn't exactly play the Hollywood game. Instead of soft answers and smiley press junkets, she gave sarcastic, confident sound bites that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. There's a difference between being outspoken and being dismissive, blank. And to some viewers, Rachel came off like she was too good for the role. And here's the twist. This wouldn't have been a problem if Disney had leaned into it. If they had rebranded the movie as a bold reimagining with a whole new angle, maybe it could have worked. But instead, they tried to market it like a faithful update and let their lead openly roast the original film. That mixed messaging created a PR disaster. Rachel's attitude was seen by many as smug or condescending, especially when she talked about how every girl dreams of being the leader instead of falling in love. Sure, that sounds empowering on paper, but in context, it felt like she was mocking little girls who actually did grow up loving the idea of fairy tales, romance, and magic. The internet started labeling her as ungrateful, calling her a Disney anti-princess, and even pulling up old tweets and interviews to paint her as difficult. Some of it was exaggerated, sure, but the damage was done. Rachel became the face of a project people already had doubts about, and her every move just added fuel to the fire. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a movie, it was about a cultural moment. Fans, critics, and even casual observers were debating what it means to modernize something that was never broken. And in the middle of all that, Rachel, unintentionally becoming the villain in her own fairy tale reboot. What's wild is that this whole mess wasn't even just Rachel's fault. It was Disney's. From the jump, the studio tried to market this remake with the same formula they've used for years. Glossy announcements, a teaser photo, and some vague buzzwords about diversity and modern values. But what they didn't account for was how deeply people are connected to these old-school Disney films, especially Snow White, which was the first full-length animated feature in history. It's literally the blueprint for the entire Disney brand. So when the studio started gutting the very things that made the movie iconic, the prince, the songs, the dwarfs, the fairy tale tone, and replaced them with vague promises of female empowerment, it started to feel less like a remake and more like damage control. And instead of being transparent about the changes, Disney threw Rachel out front like a shield. She was doing all the press, all the heavy lifting, answering questions about a movie that wasn't even finished yet. And when those interviews blew up in the worst way possible, Disney said nothing. No clarifications, no statements, no support, just silence. Meanwhile, Rachel was trending every other week for a soundbite, and the studio let the internet tear her apart. It felt like a setup. She was 21, doing what she thought was on brand for the movie, and no one in PR stepped in to course correct. Some insiders even say the movie had multiple versions of the script floating around, with rewrites happening months into production. So, was this even her vision? Or was she just stuck promoting a broken project with a confusing message? Either way, she became the face of the backlash. And here's the kicker. That silence from Disney only made people more suspicious. It confirmed what a lot of critics were already thinking, that the company didn't really believe in the film. They were just checking boxes and hoping it would coast off nostalgia. But nostalgia only works when you respect the original, and this version of Snow White looked nothing like the story people remembered. Once the internet got involved, there was no turning back. What started as a few awkward interviews quickly snowballed into full-blown meme territory. TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, everyone had something to say. Edits of Rachel dragging the prince or making sarcastic faces during press clips went viral almost daily. One TikTok even joked that the evil queen would be the relatable hero in this version, and it racked up millions of views. People weren't just criticizing her, they were roasting the entire concept of the film. And you know the internet, once it smells blood, it doesn't let up. What made it worse was the contrast between Rachel's attitude and how other Disney actresses carried themselves. Think about Halle Bailey during the Little Mermaid rollout. She radiated love for the original, brought a soft elegance to the press tour, and was respectful even when the questions were annoying. Meanwhile, Rachel's interviews felt tense, defensive, or just straight up mocking. And when clips started circulating of her saying she was only paid a little bit for Snow White, or joking about not needing a man to save her, fans felt like she was trying to distance herself from the Disney brand while still cashing the check. That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Instead of empowering, it came off as ungrateful. And fair or not, the court of public opinion doesn't wait for full context. Rachel became a symbol, not just of Snow White going wrong, but of what people see as a growing trend. Studios using legacy IP to push half-baked modern messages without understanding the original appeal. And in that chaos, Dylan O'Brien's offhand reaction, that little "that was weird" moment, hit harder than it should have, because it wasn't just shade, it was a vibe. He basically said what half the internet had been thinking for months, and that's why it stuck. People took it as low-key confirmation that even Hollywood was side-eyeing this reboot. By this point, the Snow White drama had turned into something way bigger than just one movie. It became a symbol of Disney's identity crisis, and Rachel Zegler just happened to be caught in the middle of it. Think about it. Disney has spent the last decade chasing two things at once: nostalgia and modern values. But somewhere along the way, they stopped asking themselves a simple question: who is this for? With every remake, from The Lion King to Mulan to The Little Mermaid, they've tried to walk a tightrope between honoring the past and updating it for the future. But when it came to Snow White, they didn't just update the story, they basically disowned it. And that's why this one hit differently. It wasn't just a reimagining, it felt like an apology for the original, like Disney was embarrassed by what it used to be, and that confused fans. Why remake something you clearly don't respect? And why cast someone like Rachel Zegler, confident, outspoken, sharp, if you're not going to support her when the messaging backfires? The backlash wasn't just about her. It was a reflection of everything Disney has been getting wrong lately. People are noticing the formula: legacy title, splashy diverse casting, vague empowerment language, stripped-down storytelling, and a press tour that feels more like damage control than celebration. Then, when fans push back, Disney either goes silent or doubles down. And in that silence, actors like Rachel take the fall. Suddenly, she's the villain, when all she did was echo the tone the studio set from the beginning. She didn't rewrite the script. She didn't design the new character. She didn't approve the weird, mystical non-dwarf replacements. But she became the face of it all, and the internet turned her into a cautionary tale. Even people who had never seen her in a movie were suddenly convinced she was arrogant, bitter, or too political, all because of a few viral clips taken out of context. And yes, her tone may have been off sometimes, but let's not pretend other actors haven't said worse without being crucified. The difference here is timing. Disney was already under fire for a string of flops and mixed messaging. The fan base was already tired of feeling talked down to. So when Rachel made a few tone-deaf jokes, it wasn't just about her. It became about everything fans resented in modern Disney. She was the lightning rod, whether she meant to be or not. And the worst part? It's not like Disney is learning from any of this. Instead of reassessing their approach, they've pushed the film's release back, slapped a vague new marketing plan on it, and are hoping people forget. But the internet doesn't forget, especially not when you hand it meme material for an entire year. Dylan O'Brien's little comment might have seemed like a throwaway line, but in the middle of this storm, it became a mirror. He didn't say anything cruel. He didn't rant. He just called it what it was. Weird. And that one word spoke louder than 100 press statements. It validated what fans had been feeling, that something was off, and nobody at Disney seemed willing to say it out loud. By the time the Snow White drama hit full saturation, it wasn't just fans side-eyeing Rachel Zegler, it was the industry too. Studios pay attention to public perception, and once her name became synonymous with PR disaster, doors started quietly closing. You won't find articles spelling it out, but the shift is obvious. Rachel had been positioned as the next big thing, handpicked by Spielberg, cast in huge franchises like Shazam and Hunger Games, and now the face of a Disney reboot. But since the backlash, silence. No new lead roles announced, no big press appearances. Even the Snow White promotional schedule has gone dark. Some insiders say Disney is considering reshaping the marketing entirely, minimizing Rachel's involvement to avoid more backlash when the movie eventually drops. And when Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out, she was noticeably absent from a lot of the heavier press cycles, despite being one of the leads. Coincidence? Maybe. But in Hollywood, perception is currency, and Rachel's stock took a hit. The real problem is that she got caught in a no-win situation. She was too outspoken for the classic Disney princess mold, but too tied to the Disney machine to fully break free. And now she's in this weird career limbo, too famous to disappear, but too controversial to push. Even fans who used to root for her have started questioning whether she was ready for this level of fame, or if the industry hyped her up too fast without giving her room to grow. And fair or not, a lot of people are wondering if she'll ever fully recover from being the face of one of Disney's most criticized projects in recent memory. Because in an industry that thrives on likability and timing, all it takes is one misstep, or in Rachel's case, one weird press tour, to flip the entire narrative. Dylan O'Brien's "that was weird" moment might have felt like a casual throwaway, but in a way, it perfectly captured what the audience has been feeling for months. That the entire Snow White situation was out of touch, awkward, and just off. And coming from someone like Dylan, who's managed to stay likable and respected without being overly political or dramatic, the comment hit differently. It felt like subtle honesty in an industry full of rehearsed answers. And let's be real, Dylan's got that Gen Z millennial crossover appeal. He's been in big franchises, he knows how to play the media game, and he doesn't speak unless he means it. So when he reacts with that level of confusion, it says something. It's the same reaction a lot of Hollywood insiders are probably having behind closed doors, but are too polished to say out loud. Dylan's moment didn't just go viral because of what he said. It went viral because it felt real. It was a rare peek into how celebrities might actually feel about the wave of modernized reboots that are more about messaging than storytelling. And that's the real story here. The public isn't rejecting progress, they're rejecting forced, tone-deaf storytelling that strips away the heart of what made these classics work in the first place. It's not about hating Rachel Zegler or refusing to update old fairy tales. It's about the way it's being done. Fans don't want to feel scolded or talked down to. They want the magic, the charm, the emotional connection, and they're not getting that. Dylan's little comment accidentally put a spotlight on the elephant in the room. Everyone sees what's happening, but no one wants to say it out loud. And when they do, it blows up. Because at the end of the day, people just want good stories, strong characters, and a little bit of respect for the things they grew up loving. If Disney, and Hollywood in general, can't deliver that without turning their own legacy into a punchline, then yeah, it is weird. And the audience is no longer afraid to say it.